Cornell is rather large as, Ivy Leagues go. There is a total enrollment of over 23,000, and you can see that over 14,000 of those are undergraduates, and those are all in Ithaca at that campus there. So where do people who go to Cornell come from? You can see that there's a large percentage that are from New York State. And the reason that is that because part of Cornell is actually funded by the New York government. So part of it is, some of their schools, I think, including the agricultural part, is considered a state school. So if you go to the agricultural, if you study certain topics, you can qualify for in-state tuition. Most people, that does not apply to them, but that does explain a little bit about why so many people from New York State attend Cornell. The next biggest group, as you can see, is international students. Cornell is very international. There'll be people from many different countries, and there's lots of clubs and organizations for different countries, different ethnicities, cultures, and everyone can find a group that they can join and find people from all over the world. When I did my undergraduate, even though it wasn't here, one of my best friends was from Hungary, another was from China. So there's just lots of opportunities to meet people from all across, not only the United States, but the world. Class of 2023 admissions. So here is some of that great information that everyone's always looking for, statistics. Can I get in? How hard is it? So you can see here that the overall acceptance rate was just over 10%, including early decision and regular decision, two different tracks that we'll discuss. And this is the most recent data available, but in other universities in this cycle right now, admissions have become increasingly more difficult, and applications are up significantly. At University of Pennsylvania, I think it was over 30% more applications this year. So we'll keep our eye on the statistics for Cornell, but next year we don't see any chance that it will become easier than this. So if you want to be one of that 10% that's accepted, you have to, have the scores and have the story, and that's what we'll go over today, is how to become some of those, that 10% that is admitted. If you take the SAT or the ACT, and we'll talk about how it's test optional soon, you're going to want to be at least within this range, if not above. So 25th percentile means that 25% of the people admitted were below that score, and 75th percentile means 25% of people admitted were above that score. So this is the range of the middle 50% of people who were admitted. And, that's between 680 and 760, 720, 800. So you can see on the math, 25+% of people admitted had a perfect score on math. And that's really important to note, that test scores are very important back when they were required. And now, of course, they're optional. So we'll talk about that. But still, if you submit your scores, make sure that they are at least above the 25th percentile. People who get in below the 25th percentile often have some sort of story or some reason that they did not do as well. So don't think you'll be the exception. Obviously aim for above the 75th percentile if you really want that shot of being admitted. Class rank, most people were in the top 10% of their class, not all schools ranked, of course. And you can see that not everyone came from a private school. 63% came from public school. So there should be no barrier for you as a student to apply and attend Cornell if you have all the right information and you know what they're looking for. If you're considering Cornell, there are certain popular majors that most people study. This is not a comprehensive list, of course, because Cornell offers dozens of majors, but the most important, to look over are biology, computer science, business, and after you get below that, I want to highlight economics, engineering, political science. Those are all very typical majors, and you'll find that at almost any school, as those are being some of the top ones that students select. Unique to Cornell, however, is the hospitality and tourism management through their hotel school, and the agricultural business and animal sciences, which are through their School of Agriculture. So Cornell has those unique schools, and these are things you won't find at other ones. So if you're specifically interested in these topics, Cornell is probably the best place to go. So your first option, once you've decided that Cornell is the right fit for you, you have the scores, you have the grades, you have the desire to go and attend one of their programs, you know that they have the right major for you, you've done your research, is to decide how you're going to apply. And this can be a tricky process because it varies between schools. Not all schools offer the same routes to admission. Cornell offers two: early decision and regular decision. So first, let's go over early decision. Early decision means that you can only apply to one college at a time. So if you apply early decision to Cornell, you can't apply anywhere else yet. If you're admitted to Cornell, you must go there. It's a binding contract. So once you apply, by November 16th is their deadline. You will hear by mid-December if you're accepted. The outcomes for that can be either a deferral to the regular decision pool, so they'll look at your application again in the spring, acceptance or denial. If you are not accepted or you are deferred, you should apply to other schools. Now you say mid-December, that's pushing it on a lot of other applications. That's right. You don't have to wait till you get a deny from Cornell or a deferral to apply to regular decision schools. So in early December, you can apply to as many other schools as you want for regular decision. But if you're admitted to Cornell, you have to withdraw those applications because you committed to going there. The point is that you can only apply to one early. So if some other top school also has an early decision program, you have to choose between that school and Cornell. So make sure you have all your application material in by November 16th. If you are a US citizen, you have 5 more days to submit your financial aid documents, but if you're an international student, it's due the same day. And the great part about early decision is that you hear by mid-December. So, for the rest of your senior year, you can relax, or, you have that decision from Cornell and you can apply to the rest of the schools. The benefits of doing early decision is usually there is a higher acceptance rate because they know that you're committed to go there. And that means that their yield is up and they know how their class is going to form earlier in the year. They know that you're committed to them. Some of the downsides people see is that sometimes you're not going to have the option to compare offers. So you get an offer from Cornell, you have to choose it. You don't have time to look at other places. And for a lot of families, that's an issue because of financial aid. You can't compare financial aid packages. And that is the one caveat to early decision, is that if the Cornell financial aid package is not enough for your family, you have the option to exit the early decision contract, although that is not a common circumstance. So most applicants apply through regular decision, and this is the most normal form of admission that every college has, except for if they do rolling. And by January 2nd, you have to apply. Again, you have a little bit longer if you're a US citizen for your financial aid. And then again, because there is a greater number of applications, it takes longer to get a decision. And they will be released in early April. I think this year the date is April 6th. It's usually April 1st, but because of the increased applications this year, all the Ivy Leagues have agreed to push the release date a week so that they have time to thoroughly look through all the applications. And that tells you that it's serious, that they have a lot more. And you see that you have to reply to your offer admission by May 1st. So with regular decision, you can apply to as many colleges as you like. And between early April and May, that's your chance to start comparing all your offers, see where it gives you the best financial aid or a scholarship, or just which program you like. Certain schools, there are portfolios or interviews, and we'll go over that as well. So this is the checklist when you are applying, whether it be in November or January for either of them. You want to submit the common application, and that is something that will be submitted to all schools. So you fill out a form with biographical information about your school, your grades, your extracurriculars, and you also include supplemental essays in that. So your school will send over a school report, which basically has information about your school, so they can judge you in context. So if you're applying from a school that no one has ever applied to Cornell from, they're not going to know a lot about your courses or how difficult it is. So this gives the school the chance to tell Cornell about where you went to school, and it gives you a chance to understand the context around your application, which is very important. Your school will also send a counselor recommendation, and make sure you're in contact with your counselor, whether you be in 11th grade right now or earlier on. Start telling them about your plans to apply to college, and start talking to them about your goals. So when they're ready to write your recommendation, they know more about you. So definitely cultivate that relationship. Speaking of relationships, you need 2 teacher evaluations. And some schools specify like a math science teacher and one in the humanities, like English or history. Cornell doesn't have that stipulation, but you should just pick 2 teachers that know you very well. This isn't necessarily the teachers that gave you the best grades or you took the most difficult class with, but this is the teacher that can say something about you specifically. Mid-year report. So as you know, when you apply, especially, early decision, they're not going to have a lot of information about your senior year grades. They're going to have mostly grade 11 information. So they need to know what's going on with you in your last year of high school. And this isn't due immediately, usually. It's due in January or when your mid-year grades are available. But they can't finalize your application or, process your acceptance until they have that and make sure your grades haven't dipped significantly. You'll also have to send a high school transcript, so you'll be in contact with your counselor at your school about that information as well. You'll pay the application fee or waiver. The waiver is for students who demonstrate financial need, and you'll be able to find information about who qualifies for that on their website. And then, of course, there are Cornell specific things. So the rest of that you'll be sending to all the schools, but Cornell has specific questions that they want to ask you and a writing supplement, which we'll talk about. And certain colleges at Cornell will have either portfolio or an interview requirement as well. So testing. This is a interesting topic these days because of they're getting rid of, these SAT subject tests, so that will not be required anymore. And like last year, Cornell is suspending the SAT ACT for people who are applying in fall 2021. So if you have not taken it, you do not need to take it for Cornell. But if you're applying the year after, it may be required. We don't know yet. They'll release that information next year. In general, it's a good idea to take one of these exams because not all schools are test optional. And you need to think about applying to a range of places. So the following 4 schools are test optional: College of Arts and Sciences, Engineering, Human Ecology, and Industrial and Labor Relations. If you want to submit your test scores to these schools, you can, but you don't have to. So if you get a really high score, you might want to submit your scores to these 4 schools because it will help your application to have such a high score. If you have a low score on the SAT or ACT, it's then a better option not to submit it because it is test optional. You don't want them to see something that is not going to be really positive in your application. These 4 schools are score-free. College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, College of Architecture, Art and Planning, and the Business School, which is split into the Dyson School of Applied Economics and Management and the School of Hotel Administration. So don't send your scores if you are applying to one of these 4 schools because they will not look at them. It's not even part of their admissions process. But of course, again, if you are applying in, cycles in the next year or 2, do check the website and make sure they're not test free or test optional, or because things do change year to year. So this is updated information for students who are applying for fall 2021. Some, as we said, are looking for additional supplemental material. If you are applying to Agriculture and Life Sciences and you want to do landscape architecture specifically, you will need to do a portfolio. And generally, portfolios are due around the time of your application, so make sure to prepare those in advance. If you're really busy with school and stuff, do it the summer before. Start spring of 11th grade, putting together some of this material if you already know you want to do one of these programs. If you want to do architecture as well, there will be a portfolio that you need to submit. If you want to do art, there will also be a portfolio. And if you're going into the human ecology school, there will be some design challenges and supplements, which are really interesting, I think. And you can check out that information on their website about, what that entails exactly. But be prepared, because if you're applying to one of these 4 things, 5 programs, you have to do a little bit of extra work in your application to make it complete. So don't wait till the last minute. Otherwise, you won't be able to apply to one of these programs. Now, not everyone is applying to one of those specialist programs. So if you are a musician or something like that, You have the option of doing, you know, supplemental material optionally. So if you want, you can submit musical recordings, singing, or an instrument. And there are some information here about, what that entails and the length. I think it's no more than 10 minutes. Either can't be above a certain file size or um, large PDF, things like that. But the point is that not everyone has to submit this, and it won't even benefit everyone to submit this. But if you are a talented musician in some sense, this is a great chance for you to kind of exemplify what you showed on your common application. Because on your common application, you write down all your extracurriculars. And if you mention that you do singing or dance or an instrument, you have the option to really show them your skills and they will listen to them. So this can really boost your application if you're talented in that. That doesn't mean that you have to then study music at Cornell, but it could help you get in if you're very talented. Financial aid. So to afford Cornell, Cornell is expensive. This year it was $57,000 to attend in tuition. Most people can't afford that. Luckily, Cornell has a very robust program of financial aid. If you go onto their website and you are a US citizen, you will be able to use this net price calculator. So you put in some information about your parents' finances and things like that, your tax returns, and they will calculate the estimated cost that you have to pay at Cornell. Because Cornell offers a lot of financial aid. So they calculate it like this. There's the estimated cost, and then there is a chunk of money that based on their calculations, that your family can afford. So your family has to contribute some amount. It will be less if you earn less, it will be more if you earn more. And that's how they calculate your financial need. And very often, your financial need is, a significant portion of the tuition. Cornell is a needs blind institution, so if you apply and you need financial aid, they don't know that in advance. Only after you are admitted will they understand that, and they are, committed to meeting the financial need of all the students who are admitted. So finances should not be a barrier for you from attending Cornell. And just a reminder that the cost includes tuition and fees, housing, dining, books, travel. So don't forget about those expenses when you start budgeting for your college future. Something that is really interesting, and they have lots of scholarships that are specific to different majors or students from different countries. So I want to highlight this scholarship for 20 students from India per year. They must be a citizen of India, attended secondary school there, and be eligible for need-based financial aid. So even if you're an international student, you should submit a financial aid application to Cornell. And if you do, they will consider you for this scholarship. There are some preferences. So if you are in one of these schools or studying one of these majors, biological sciences, physical sciences, other hard sciences, as well as the social sciences, which includes history and political science, economics, things like that, you will be given priority, but that is not a barrier if you want to study something else. So definitely look at this. There is no separate application. Just make sure you submit your financial aid application at the same time as your application to Cornell, and you will be automatically considered for this scholarship. Now, selection criteria. What is Cornell looking for? Cornell looks for the following things. In college admissions, there is no formula that's going to get you in. They look to create a diverse class of ideas and backgrounds, and a lot of students come from very different circumstances, and they want to form a community that's going to challenge each other and intellectually, and make sure you come in contact with people who are not like those you have known in the past, and it creates a really cool environment. So they're looking for your intellectual potential. They want to see that you've challenged yourself. So, are you taking the hardest classes at your school? If your school doesn't offer any AP classes, or you're not at an IB school, how are you increasing your learning? Are you taking outside courses? Are you, taking courses in the summer? So they want to see that you've demonstrated your passion and, commitment to learning beyond just the minimum, or beyond just what is easy for you to do. They want to see your character. And this largely comes across in your essays and in your recommendations from your teachers. Are you honest, open-minded? Do you take initiative? Do you have empathy? Values like that are important to Cornell because they're forming this group of this class. You're not going to be there just to, succeed in a cutthroat environment academically. You're going to be making friends. You're going to making connections in the future. So they want to see that you're going to be part of a community that cares for, respects, and challenges other people. Involvement. Have you done a lot of extracurriculars? Have you been involved in your community, volunteering or doing some sort of other activity, raising money? Have you had workplace experience, internship, volunteer, leadership? In your school clubs, have you gone beyond just the minimum of being a member? Have you taken charge as president, vice president, or treasurer of your club? How have you shown your commitment to these extracurriculars? And they want to see that you're not just starting these like in 11th grade. Start them as early as possible so they can see that length of time that you've been committed to something, that it's not just something that you do for your college applications, but that you're genuinely interested in whatever you do. Perhaps you're not in, a club or anything. What talents or interests do you have? Do you attend hackathons? Do you play an instrument for fun? What do you do beyond school, basically? Make sure you develop those and highlight those in your application because it's very important that you're not just getting great grades, you're also actively involved in a lot of other pursuits outside of academics. And then what is very important is that Cornell wants to make sure you're choosing Cornell because of what is available to you there. There's not just, not just that it's an Ivy League, not just that it's an amazing school. They want to see that, you did your research. They have the right major for you and they have the right programs, they write clubs. So do your research on like professors, classes, majors. Every detail that you include in your application can be really important. So when I applied to college, both Cornell and Penn, I did a lot of digging. I looked into the departments that I was interested in. And in my essays, I specifically named professors, classes, and prior events like symposiums or research opportunities that I wanted to be involved in. And I said that, these schools were the best places for me to do that. And, later when I was looking, I was at Penn and I reread my essay about, for both of these, I saw that a lot of the professors that I wrote about in these essays as somebody I wanted to work with, I actually ended up working with. And I think that doing this research before I even applied helped me once I got there because I was ready to hit the ground running. I knew what clubs I was interested in. So, week one, freshman year, I was able to join those clubs and I was able to register for classes with professors that I knew of already because I had done research on what their specialties was and what classes they taught. So a lot of this will come out when you were writing your essay. So let's go over just the 3 most popular schools for applicants: College of Arts and Sciences, School of Business, and Engineering. Arts and Sciences says, Ezra Cornell is their founder. And he had a very famous phrase, which they have all over Cornell. Every building, every paper, everything says, any person, any study, was his founding vision. So when you apply to College of Arts and Sciences, you have to tell them about an area you're excited to explore and why you want to do it at Cornell. So that's exactly what I was just talking about. You have to have done your research. You have to know what major you want to do, even if this doesn't end up being the major you end up declaring later, but tell them about what areas you're excited to explore and learn about at Cornell and why Cornell is the best place for that. So you might be really into physics and say like, this is all the background I did in that. This is why I'm excited to explore it. But if you don't say why Cornell, they could think that you could do physics at any university. So this needs to be about why you want to go to the physics department at Cornell, what professors and what areas of physics, and what undergraduate research or what clubs will you get involved in to further your interest in it. In the business school, the question is, what kind of business student are you? So as we know, there are 2 tracks, the applied economics management and hotel administration. So pick one of those and talk about why your interest is in it and why it can be met in the college. So this is the same question as, the College of Arts and Sciences, but you have to be specific to the business program you want to apply to, what opportunities they have for you there. And again, be as specific as possible. I don't think it's possible to be too specific. name specific professors in there, specific classes. You can name an event from 2017 that you were really interested in and say that they hope that, they do this event again. Show that you did your research and you dug through their website. And then the College of Engineering, very similar. Tell us about what excites you about Cornell Engineering, studying there. So again, same stuff, being specific about the program, and how you see yourself becoming a part of Cornell Engineering community. And this part, you want to go a little further. You want to talk about, what clubs, activities, research, hackathons, robotics, whatever it is that you're interested in, what clubs and opportunities Cornell has for it, both inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. And letter of recommendation. So we talked about this before a bit, but these are the things that your school needs to send in. And make sure you're on top of this, because this stuff is going to, if this isn't submitted, your application won't be complete. So there's the school report, the mid-year report, and then like the essays, the counselor recommendation and the teacher evaluations are chances for, them to learn more about you. That's not just test scores, that's not just grades or a transcript. Like the essays, these recommendation letters are a window into who you are as a person and your personality and things that might not come across. So be really open with your counselor and teachers about your background, your story. If there's anything that you think that they should mention, tell them that. And make sure they know you well enough to write a letter full of specifics. So it's a better letter if they can tell them about something about you. So one teacher, perhaps, here's an example. They can say, this person is a great student. They got an A in my class, one of the best students I've ever taught. Okay, that's great, right? Like, you're one of the best students. But what does it really say about you? So here's another example. A teacher who says, they struggled a little bit at first, but they put in so much time. They came after class every single day and studied and raised their grades and started a club in the subject because they became so involved in it. So you might think like, oh, they're saying something like negative about me, like I didn't start off so well, but that showed your dedication, your commitment, and they were able to talk about like a club you started, that you stayed every day and worked. So those are really specific examples that a college will be able to read and say, the student's dedicated, the student cares about their subject, and things like that. So find the teachers that you have had the most interaction with, not necessarily the teacher is that the most prestigious. And that's the most key part, because you want the teacher evaluations and the counselor recommendations to add on to your application and tell them something new about you and emphasize qualities about you that a college will want to know. And finally, we want to talk about the interview here. Now, a lot of Ivy Leagues require, well, they don't require, but they offer an interview to every student who applies. Back when I applied to Cornell, that was still the case, and I did an interview, but they are no longer required. If you're applying to the architecture program, you will be required to have an interview, and you'll be able to schedule it starting in August through that link there, which is found on the admissions website for Cornell. For all other applicants, there is no interview process, and they don't offer them even if you request them. So that should take some worry off of most of your minds. There is not going to be a stressful interview after you apply. So once your application is in, you can sit back and wait for those the acceptance to come in. And of course, you'll be keeping your senior year grades up strong. So when they ask for the mid-year report and then the final report at the end of the year, you'll be able to show that your grades are still strong, and hopefully you'll be able to attend Cornell the following fall.